Fasten your seatbelt. I am taking you for the ride of your life. I'm going to show you what this car can really do. Are you ready?
I am ready.
Hang on.
Okay.
Here we go.
Hold on to your butts.
Go get him, kid.
It might be a tumor.
It's not a tumor. Not a tumor at all.
F.
You're going to ask me. So you can go ahead and ask me what you're going to ask me. And my natural response could be to get offended.
Hey, want to hear the most annoying sound in the world?
Yeah, well, you know, that's just like your opinion, man.
All right.
You're listening to the 30-something movie podcast. One movie each week, 30 years in the making. It's the 30-something movie podcast. I am your host, John Reed. You are with us here for episode 407, Universal Soldier. I have with me Patrick Canigallo. Pat, how's it going?
Great, John. How you doing?
I am doing excellent, sir. Excellent. And then Bo Warmbold.
Yo.
Bo, how's it going?
I'm doing quite well, John. Yourself?
Good. I am doing fine.
Excellent.
We're going to talk Universal Soldier.
As we should.
One of those movies that I've said before I have seen an inappropriate number of times.
And at an inappropriate young age, perhaps?
Probably. This is the one I think I've mentioned before. This is the one that I saw at the 5th grade sleepover party where I also was introduced to Army of Darkness.
Wow, that's quite the double feature. I might be jealous of that.
That is a double feature of epic proportions.
That was
Indeed.
That was the 5th grade sleepover party that was Pizza Hut, Street Fighter 2 Turbo, Army of Darkness, and Universal Soldier.
So
sure.
Who do you play on Street Fighter 2?
Who do I play? Who was my go-to? I think at the time my go-to was Blanca.
Solid choice, man.
But I was very much a button masher, so Chun-Li was always a good option.
All right.
Because you could just stand there and kick.
Yeah. What about you, Bo?
Wow. That's tough. I have to look at the list again. It might remind me some. Johnny Cage? Am I thinking of the right game?
Sorry, it was breaking up there, Bo. Can you repeat, please? Maybe. Trying to help you out.
I'm not, am I?
His finishing move was the wax on.
Yeah, exactly. No, I'm checking again. It's been a long time.
I just sometimes I have like the phrase just because I heard it so many times growing up. I every once in a while will hear like Yoga Flame.
Bison. I liked Bison.
Bison.
Yeah.
Nice.
Johnny Cage was Mortal Kombat. That's what it was. Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, Bison. I remember laughing through the whole movie at Raul Julia's portrayal of him.
Mm-hmm.
My problem with Street Fighter 2 is I never learned all the combinations.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying?
And that was when those games got hard. Because you had to do all the stuff, and I wasn't that good at it.
I will say, Mortal Kombat, you could still just do punches and kicks. Like you could get by a reasonable amount just doing jumping, punching, kicking, blocking.
Oh, that's pretty much all I'm saying. Yeah.
Yeah, and then you would kind of get the moves down. Street Fighter, you had to get those combinations, and I just never had them. So that's one of the things, much like 7th grade math, one of the things that in adulthood I'd like to make sure to do.
Mm-hmm.
I understood there would be no math.
Yes.
I pulled out the old Sega Genesis the other day before we got the Switch. I plugged the Sega Genesis in when it was video game day, and I put in Mortal Kombat, entered the blood code, and then I'm like, I wonder what the blood code was. Man, I wish I remembered that. And then it's like, wait a minute, I got a time machine. I can just go back 10 minutes early and warn him. So I looked it up on the Google, put in the blood code, and I started playing, and my kids were sitting there, and they were on like a Zoom call with their cousins and playing their whatever video games and stuff. And all of a sudden they looked up and I was Sub-Zero, and I was like, pulling dudes' spinal columns out and everything. And they're all like, Dad, that's disgusting. That is disturbed. Dad, what are you doing? And Tammy's like, what are you doing? And I'm like, well, and Dominic's like, and I was the same age. Dude, this is awesome. And he's just like, oh. And then my nieces were like, what's Uncle Patrick doing? And Dominic's like, he's pulling people's heads off with their spinal cords. And I hear my brother-in-law going, yeah, Mortal Kombat, that's awesome. And the kids are like, oh, that's disgusting. Turn that off. They were like totally horrified by Mortal Kombat. And I'm like, that's pretty funny.
Finish and you're like, good, damn it. Let's be horrified. This is Dad's game.
Mm-hmm.
That's right, man. That's right. Oh, man.
And then you think about it for a minute. You're like, man, I was that old when I was playing this, doing this. And well, what are you going to do?
Yeah. Yeah. There's not much.
I don't want you playing Fortnite. That's violent.
Right.
I know. Well, and it's funny because
going
back to our Patriot Games discussion.
Fatality.
It's funny because I read it. I was reading that book and the levels of violence that they describe in that book. And I was in 5th or 6th grade reading that stuff. You know what I'm saying? And
I still think there is a difference, and plenty of people will tell me I'm full of crap and whatever.
You're full of crap.
I still think there's a difference between written violence and visual violence.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I think your brain has to fill in so much that it just doesn't land the same way.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Very true. All right, gents. We've got some Universal Soldier to talk about. Are your souls prepared?
My unisouls are prepared.
Thank you.
My gosh.
Thank you. Yes, that's the correct response. That's why you're here, Bo.
I knew there had to be a reason.
Bo won the podcast.
There we go. All right. Universal Soldier. This movie came out on the 10th of July, 1992. Rated R, with a runtime of 1 hour and 42 minutes. Directed by Roland Emmerich, who also did Stargate, Independence Day, and The Day After Tomorrow. Writers for this one were Richard Rothstein, who died in 2018, and then also Christopher Leach and Dean Devlin. Rothstein and Leach did a TV series called The Hitchhiker. Devlin did Independence Day. Producer for this one, Craig Baumgarten, Joel B. Michaels, and Alan Shapiro. Baumgarten did Shattered Glass, Never Back Down. Michaels did Stargate and Terminator Salvation. Let's see, Shapiro did The Quick and the Dead and Air America. Music for this one done by Christopher Frank. Did The Amazing Race and Babylon 5. Cinematography by Carl Walter Lindenlaub, who did Independence Day and Stargate. Editor was Michael J. Duthie, who did Pandorum and Stargate. Budget was $23 million, box office $95 million. Flick metrics, I think I mentioned this on our Patreon episode, have not been able to get Flick metrics to work lately, so I'm not sure what the score was on there, but CinemaScore gives this one a B. Jean-Claude Van Damme played Luke Devereaux, or GR44. He was in Double Impact and Double Team. A lot of doubles there. Mixed doubles, I believe, is when he plays tennis. He plays mixed doubles because of all those double movies. Dolph Lundgren was Andrew Scott, or GR13. He was in Rocky IV and Masters of the Universe. Ali Walker played Veronica Roberts. She was in the TV series Profiler and the movie While You Were Sleeping. Ed O'Ross plays Colonel Perry. He was in Red Heat and Dick Tracy. Jerry Orbach, who died in 2004, played Dr. Christopher Gregor. He was in Dirty Dancing and Law & Order. Leon Rippey played Woodward. He was in Stargate and the TV series Deadwood. Tycho Wells played Garth. He was in The Relic and the TV series Bones. Ralph Moeller played GR76. He was in Gladiator and Cyborg. Robert Trevor played the motel owner. He was in the TV series Hercules and the movie Raise Your Voice. And Tom Tiny Lister Jr., who died in 2020, played GR55. He was in The Dark Knight, and he was also in No Holds Barred. During the Vietnam War, soldier Luke Devereaux finds that his superior officer, Andrew Scott, has turned violently deranged, and the two fight to the death. After their bodies are retrieved, they're placed into a secret program in which they're reanimated and trained to become unquestioning killing machines. While Devereaux and Scott initially have no memory of their former lives, glimpses of their past start to return, rekindling their intense conflict.
It was a top-secret government project.
Pack them in ice. All of them.
designed to create the perfect soldier.
No man would ever again have to die in the service of his country.
Cryogenically preserved.
Okay, guys. Memory clearance.
Genetically enhanced.
How's the picture?
Pretty ugly.
Very funny, very funny.
Programmed to obey.
They're at the tower. Okay, here we go.
Who are these guys?
30 hostages held inside the power station at the base of the structure.
I said shut up! We're inside.
Begin phase 2.
This marks the third successful mission for the Universal Soldier.
But there was something they didn't count on.
He's not responding. GR-44, do you read me?
At the end of the mission, he became completely unresponsive.
Inside the machine is a man.
Do you really think the Pentagon would allow the regeneration of dead soldiers?
Stop the girl. Shoot if you have to.
And all it takes
Veronica Roberts, TNA.
is one memory
You didn't do anything!
to awaken him.
Let's go! Hit it!
Traitor. Universal Soldier.
What the hell did they do to you?
Don't know. But I'm going to find out.
One can't be controlled.
Buckle up.
The other cannot be stopped.
This mission has been canceled.
I'm giving the orders from now on. I'm gonna teach them all.
Are we having fun yet?
The ultimate weapons of the future have declared war on each other. Jean-Claude Van Damme, Dolph Lundgren. Universal Soldier.
Stop. That is an order.
So we've got some major moments in this movie. The first of our major moments, we start the movie off. Actually, before that, I was going to comment really, really quickly. For a movie that's already a bit of a Terminator ripoff, did we catch the Terminator 2 music in the trailer?
Yeah. I was going to make note of that.
Yeah.
That was...
Hey, man, if it works, reuse it.
Yeah. We've kind of commented, at least it works with this movie. We've commented on some of our movies lately that some of the trailer music and the way the trailers are kind of edited together, it doesn't quite tell the right story. It doesn't tell the story that we know the movie to be. At least this one fits. They're ripping it off from another movie that's very similar. And same production company, because I think this was a Carolco movie from the production studio, and that they also did Terminator, so that would make sense, but at least the trailer fits with the movie this time.
Yes.
So we start off in Vietnam. I believe it's 1969, back in Vietnam, and the battle does not go well, Enterprise. Things are not going well in Vietnam. And I don't know. I don't think ear necklaces were the style at the time.
No, I think that would maybe pop on a psych eval or send up some red flags with command.
I mean, as Pat has pointed out, I know nothing about the military, but
Pat is not. That is a stretch. So not only are you putting words in my mouth, you're making me look like a jerk because it's implying that I do. So I love that.
You know more about the military than I do.
You got it's like the double impact, you got the double roast in there.
Yeah, I did. I wrote that down. It's in my notes, so I had to get that in there.
I'm just telling you. But
I don't think the ear necklace is Army issue, is what I'm saying.
I don't believe so.
I don't think they give that out to everybody.
But it does seem to be a common trope in terms of when someone's gone like completely nuts, right? Because I want to say, even in Deep Space Nine, some of the wars wasn't there a Klingon that had like a necklace of neck bones from one of their enemies and I want to say there's other movies where that's happened too.
Yeah, I was trying to remember if there's in other movies, I don't know, if somebody has like a necklace with other body parts on it, or I was trying to remember. I don't want to ruin the Batman for anybody who hasn't seen it yet, but there is a funny funny bit with a body part in that movie.
All right.
Have you guys both seen the Batman yet?
I have not, so I can. Do you guys want to talk about it? And I can.
No.
It?
I won't spoil it for you. It's too much.
Yeah.
Let's just say that the moment that I'm thinking of, I've seen the movie twice now, both in the movie theater. I laughed, and it's a funny moment. I laughed out loud and maybe too loud both times I saw the movie. when this scene takes place. So when you see it, Pat, I'm sure you will know and understand.
Got it.
Yeah, it's on HBO now, so you can get your HBO and then go watch it.
Oh, there you go.
You should go see it in the theater, though. It's a theater worthy movie.
All right.
Indeed.
So. But
gotcha.
Yes, so the ear necklace, not Army issue, as far as we know. I'm guessing. But yeah, the battle does not go well, and Sarge is not doing well.
No, Sarge has some issues.
He's struggling a bit. And we don't really get too much of a backstory as to why he's struggling. We just know, and I think you get a general sense of, if you're going to depict a war in which people are struggling psychologically, it's going to be Vietnam.
Right.
So. And
I think they had to choose that because they wanted that separation of time too.
Right. From when they die to when they get reanimated later on.
Yeah.
Yeah. Before we get too much further on some of the other moments in this movie, so I'm going to ask you guys this question, was that too much of a time jump from Vietnam 1969 to whenever the present day is supposed to be? I'm assuming it's supposed to be at least 1992, if not slightly into the future. Was that too much of a time jump? Because part of me, as I'm watching through this movie, I'm like, so wait, you're telling me that you kept this government project, like somebody was planning this project as far back as 1969. You kept these bodies on ice for, let's say, 25 years, and nobody knew about this project, and it's just now coming to fruition. And that was one of the, I know that there are other things that can stretch credulity in this movie, but that was one of the things watching it this time. I was like, that seems like a long time.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
I felt the same way, like, 20 years, but then, Bo, I'm sorry, did I cut across you? Were you going to finish?
No, you're fine. You're fine.
Okay, all I was going to say was, then I realized that given the age of this movie, it wasn't that far away from the Vietnam War, right?
Yeah.
So that was kind of what it did. It hit me like, boy, that seems like a long time. But then it was like, but from when this movie came out, it really wasn't that long.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, I don't know. It just seemed like a bit of a stretch. And I'm sure they probably didn't want to. The Gulf War was right around this exact same time, but I'm sure that might have been too close for them wanting to make any commentary about the Gulf War.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
And like, how long did it take them to make this movie? Right? Like, it's easy to make a joke and say, whatever, however many long, but I want to say the Gulf War. Well, the Gulf War kicked off in 91, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I always get turned around. Would a movie like this take less than a year to make?
Actually, Gulf War was it was August of 90 to February of 91.
February of 91, okay.
So most likely the Gulf War was over by the time they had started this movie.
Okay.
Yeah. I don't know. Well, and I guess you would have his parents, I guess, would have been maybe a little bit younger well, no, that doesn't make sense either, because his parents are older when you get to the end of the movie, but they don't seem like very, very old.
Right.
Yeah, I don't know. That was just something, that kind of hit me this time as I was watching, and I was like, not that I've ever analyzed this movie that deeply, but as I was watching it this time, I was like, I don't know, that just seems like a long time to keep this government project under wraps.
Right.
But maybe not.
Well, I think it's a personal deal. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. All right, well, next moment is the Hoover Dam hostages. So when we see what actually happens, we know that these characters have died in the scene in the Vietnam War. And then we come back to present day, which we'll assume is sometime in the 90s. And we have this hostage situation at the Hoover Dam, and the Unisols are being brought in, and we do notice that our two dead guys from 1969 are alive and well in the modern day, and they don't look to have aged at all. So whatever skin regimen they're also using along with the Unisol program is working out very well for them. That, I believe, is Army issue.
Yes.
Yes, or at least it would be, according to what was the name of the one voice that Robin Williams would do in Good Morning Vietnam, Mr. Leo?
Yeah.
Mr. Leo, we're wearing black. You can fight in the jungle in it at night, put on some pearls, and you're ready for formal wear. Yes.
That's right.
So whatever they're doing to keep their skin nice and looking young and revitalized, they're doing a very nice job. But they show up, and they are ready to take down these hostages at the Hoover Dam. They make a comment, so we kind of get an idea of some of their abilities. What was it? They said something like they swam, 4 miles in 8 minutes or something?
Yeah, something crazy like that. You're like, wow, okay,
He's
gotcha.
like, they swam 4 miles in 8 minutes, and the guy's like, they're 8 seconds behind schedule.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, no, they swam 1.5 miles in 4 minutes. And then Colonel Perry says they're 8 seconds behind schedule. So we get the idea that these guys are enhanced just a bit.
Just a little bit. Yeah.
Just a little bit. And that's kind of a fun scene when they go through the whole Hoover Dams thing and we see kind of what they're capable of and going through and taking out the hostages. That was kind of a fun introduction to the Unisols.
Right. Right. Good times.
So in the midst of the hostage situation, everything going on, we get the kind of the side story of this news reporter, TV news reporter, and she doesn't quite get along with her producer that's there, and she simultaneously does the news report and then gets fired, but then begins to dig in a little bit to what is going on here and what these soldiers are, and wants to try to find out some more, and so she involves herself. And she gets fully involved in finding out that things are not quite above board with whatever's going on here, and kind of discovers that something's not quite right about these soldiers. And that's where
that boy ain't right.
That boy ain't right. And that's where she gets matched up with Jean-Claude Van Damme's character, with Luke, who we can see is glitching just a little bit and is having some flashbacks to Vietnam and is not quite following his programming the way he should.
Mm-hmm.
So then he goes to kind of protect and defend her. They manage to escape. One of the next major scenes, they get to the motel. We've got some funny scenes with him playing the kind of fish out of water, not knowing how phones work, not knowing how all kinds of things work, and her just trying to kind of understand what is going on with this guy. He's being so weird. We start to get kind of some of the rules of the Unisols. We have gremlin rules for the Unisols, like he cannot get overheated. So we learn that is one of the limitations of these guys. So every soldier's got to have the weakness. So overheating, so hot weather is his kryptonite, basically.
Yeah, although as the movie goes, that importance of cooling down kind of lessens.
Yeah, it sort of disappears for a little while, and then it comes back, and then play a little fast and loose with it. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, and who cares?
So
I mean, really, like with this movie, it's like, okay, that's terrible, but let's just go have a gunfight.
So basically, the Unisols are like your iPhone. It gets a little overheated, and then it pops up that screen that says needs to cool down before you can turn it back on again, and so it's he's got to go into the bathtub of ice to get himself all cooled down. Has to strip down naked, which there's several funny parts where there's a lot of naked stripping down here.
Well, it's Jean-Claude Van Damme, so
right.
you know,
and it's very Terminator-esque. We've got to have.
Yeah.
There's another question, I guess, is what is it with the naked, half human, half robotic, whatever guys? It's like in every movie.
Well, in Terminator, it was because nothing dead will go through the time warp. So,
time travel.
You know, yeah. So that's a legit. That's science, man. That's science.
The Unisols just
that's science.
The Unisols just don't like clothes.
No, they just because they overheat.
Yeah. All right. So undead reanimated soldiers, all part of a naturalist colony.
Exactly.
Sure.
Okay. All right. I'm just trying to make sure I fully understand the movie. As many times as I've seen it, I'm really just trying to make sure I understand what's going on here with the story.
Yes.
Because that part I did not understand as a fifth grader when I first saw it.
Right.
I think we can excuse that.
Yes. Yes, that one kind of went right over my head. We get a few more details from Dr. Gregor as they visit Mr. Jerry Orbach is Dr. Gregor. They visit him. They get some more details on this program and kind of what was going on with him. At this point, Sarge has also gone a little insane and broken his programming, and then decides he's going to take over after he killed some of the doctors and the colonel. We get a really fun scene with giant syringe going in the back of some guy's head and killing him.
Oh, jeez, yeah.
Because that's always fun. Because when you love needles as much as I do, those are your favorite kind of scenes to watch.
That's the best.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Does it give you the willies?
There's other stuff where I can handle some of the body horror in other movies and things like that. But I can't, if something is going for somebody's eye or if something involves a needle, that's where I start to get the heebie-jeebies a little bit.
All right.
So
all right.
I'm not a needle fan.
Yeah.
So once they leave Dr. Gregor's, that's when Veronica and Luke get arrested, and they end up on the police bus, which then ends up getting attacked by Sarge, and they end up having the battle on the bus, and then the bus ends up going over the cliff. Boom, explosion, everybody's dead, the end. Or you think. And then all of a sudden we are back at the family farm, and that's where kind of the final battle occurs, where we think that Mom and Dad are in danger on the family farm. We think that the reporter gets blown up by a grenade, but we find out later on that she wasn't dead yet. She's feeling much better now.
Dead yet?
No, if she goes for a walk, she'll be fine. And then we have the final battle there, and with a nice little jolt of adrenaline, Luke ends up finishing off the Sarge, and Sarge finally gets the point.
All right.
So that is the plot of the movie. Are there any other major moments in the movie that we wanted to kind of talk through? Did you have, before we get into kind of our commentary on the movie and our thoughts on the movie, did you have any other, was there like a favorite scene? Was there a favorite scene? Was there a favorite? They made an attempt at doing some, like, I'm going to call them Schwarzenegger-esque one-liners in this movie. Did you have a favorite line? Did you have a favorite scene in this movie? I enjoy the scene where he's at the diner, like eating all the food.
That one's good.
Yeah, that was fun.
And then he gets into a fight, and it's kind of like it's a little bit like a Terminator 2 pool hall fight, but not quite the same.
Yeah.
It's in the down home country diner.
Yep. And the one guy's ready to throw down because, he doesn't have any money.
Yeah.
And I give that guy a lot of credit. He thought he had that fight. He thought he was going to win that fight for a ridiculous amount of time. Like, I think a person in real life would back away from some dude, even if he's eating all the food and can't pay. I think he would have backed away a lot sooner, but that guy hung in there, man. He hung in there to get his butt whooped.
More power to him.
Yeah. Yeah. Good. Bravery. So.
Certainly one way to look at it. Yes.
Oh yeah.
What was the movie I'm blanking. I'm totally blanking on it. What was the movie that we watched not that long ago? And it was like the guy you were gonna get into a fight, and the guy was like, "Well, but it was My Cousin Vinny."
Oh yeah.
It was, "I'm gonna beat you up." Well, do you have the money? Well, no, not like with me. Well, I mean, you go get it, and then we'll come back and we'll finish this. Well, but I don't have it. Well, okay, well, then as soon as you go get it, you come back and we're going to finish this thing. It's kind of like you're totally convinced I'm going to win this fight, and no, it does not go your way.
Battle does not go well, Enterprise.
No.
Right.
No. All right, well, I think mine's the diner. I'm going to go with that one.
Yeah, it's so hard to pick one.
I think, and it's horrible, and it's total low-hanging fruit humor, but I'm going to say it anyway. The scene where they're looking for the tracking device.
Yes.
Is that how that's? Yes. Yes.
Is that normal?
Yeah.
Yes, it is.
Yes, that's normal. That's okay. So here's while remaining family friendly, I'm going to ask a question. When you die and are reanimated, you clearly have enough knowledge retained of like how to drive a car or how to do certain other things. You don't retain knowledge of what's attached to your own body.
Right. That was yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess you could say they trained them how to drive, but it does seem like an odd choice, doesn't it?
Granted, you're not going to have a scene in the movie where he's staring at his own hands going like, ooh, what are these things?
Right.
True. I guess that would have been...
I have fist sausages. Look at those.
Fist sausages. All righty then.
It's like a bad, 80s punk band.
Mm-hmm. Fist sausages.
Fist sausages. Mm-hmm. And now, fist sausages.
There you go.
Hello, Detroit. We are fist sausages.
Dude, we're in Ohio.
All right. Well, I feel like over the years we've come up with a lot of different band names that if we ever gained any musical or singing talent that we could start. So
cool.
All right. I will put fist sausages in the binder just in case we ever want to do that.
Oh yeah. Yeah, put it in the pool.
No. They make some attempts, and this is going to kind of go more into some of our like commentary and thoughts on this, but they make some attempts at being a Terminator, and so you get some scenes that are very Terminator-esque in the movie, and like some of them, like having a motel scene, very much. There's several different scenes that seem like they'd be lifted directly from Terminator or Terminator 2.
Yeah, almost. Too much.
Yeah. We needed a helicopter chase and a motorcycle chase with a truck, and we'd probably have the whole picture complete.
Right.
Yeah, it definitely felt like working towards a mold, working towards a template. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
They kind of put their own wrinkle on it, but it very much had the... So you're saying Terminator 2, and I also felt like the whole RoboCop thing too.
Yeah.
Yeah,
a little bit of him like not knowing who he is or what he is, and is he human? Is he not human? All right. I think it's time to dig a little deeper here.
And now, deep thoughts.
Get your shovels.
All right. Deep thoughts, gentlemen. Did you enjoy this movie?
I did, in a popcorn kind of way. Yes.
Yeah.
It's an action movie. Kick back and enjoy the butt kicking and martial arts, and you'll enjoy it. It's that simple.
Yeah.
Yeah, agreed. I enjoyed it. Same reasons Bo's mentioned, and you either got to have fun with the movie or just be like, yeah, forget it, not my thing, because otherwise it's such a... I think that's the way the thing kind of works. It demands that you love it, or it demands that you just walk away, dislike it, hate it, whatever, because it's just such a low budget. Might seem a little bit harsh, but it's kind of like B-movie action movie, right? And I think, like any B-movies, if you like the genre, then it's going to be fun, but you got to put up with like dialogue, plot, and all those things that maybe aren't best picture Oscar worthy, if I may.
Yeah. I have this movie for me. Yes, I enjoy this movie, and I fully recognize that it has so many very stupid moments, and that in a lot of ways it is not it's not superior to a Terminator 2 or a RoboCop or anything like that. But it's one of those movies that when I kind of look at the 90s as a whole, I think of things like the movies that I know that are not critically acclaimed, amazing movies that people are going to remember for They're high quality and things like that. I mean, this gets lumped in there with me, for me, with like Demolition Man and Speed and Universal Soldier and Terminator and RoboCop and Hard Boiled, and pick some of the other, what was the other Van Damme movie later? The Sudden Death later. I mean, The Crow. Like I have memories of this set of movies that I watched in those formative years of being a middle school / high school kid in the early to mid 90s, of like, I don't know if these movies are good. I just know I really liked them. And at that point in my life, I didn't really care. Like somebody could have come along and said, hey, Universal Soldier, that's a terrible movie. I would have been like, you know what? You shut up. I don't care. And maybe I should be more that way with the movies that I like. Because I feel like I feel like sometimes, and of course we have a movie podcast, so we do this all the time anyway, but I feel like so many times people are like, well, that's not a good movie because of this, this, and this. I'm like, you know what? Shut up. I like it.
Agreed.
It's not like it's Point Break or anything. But yes, I do. I think I have.
Give me two.
Give me two. I think I have an unreasonable enjoyment with this movie. Saw it so many times, and it's just so much fun. It's so much fun. It's not a great movie, but it's so much fun. And Dolph Lundgren, I can't decide if Dolph Lundgren is a terrible villain in this movie or if he's a good villain that's just very crazy. I don't know. What do you guys think? Does Dolph Lundgren make a good villain in this movie?
He's got the look of a villain, so I think he can play it without too much effort. But they don't give his character, and I'm not saying the movie should have been longer, but you pointed it out early on, they don't give us enough about him. So we don't know what tipped him over the scales, and because we don't know that, why do we care?
Right. And
You know what I mean?
I feel that way about both of these guys. Like I needed more, I guess, for just like a blow 'em up action movie, you get enough to know that, well, this one guy snapped and went crazy, and he's the bad guy, and this one guy was good and tried to help defend the villagers, and so he's the good guy. And then they both get shot and killed.
Right.
And that's, I guess, all we really need to know for the rest of this movie to progress. But yeah, like you're saying, I'm like, if you really, because I really don't care. Like, I don't care about, what was his name? Andrew Scott, Michael Scott. I really don't care I really don't care about Michael Scott. And later, after he drops out of after he dies again and has to drop out of the Unisol program, he becomes a manager at a paper company in Scranton. And I don't care about his character. I don't really care about Luke's character. I don't really care about his parents, who, as Pat pointed out, are probably the actors themselves are probably being held against their will to be in this movie. I don't care about them. And I think, knowing that this movie is kind of like a B-movie action, blow 'em up, brainless, popcorn flick kind of a deal, I think it could have taken a step towards being something a little bit more if it had given me a little bit more of that in the beginning to help me care about the characters. It's the reason why, and I know some people look at, and I feel like back when we did this, I might have commented on this, the more I watch RoboCop, the more I think that that's an amazing movie. And that it's not just a blow 'em up 80s action movie. I really think there's a lot more to RoboCop than people give it credit for. And I think part of that, too, and especially the character of RoboCop, is I care about him because I've seen him before he becomes RoboCop. I know he's got a family. I know what kind of person he is. I don't know that about Luke, and I don't know that about Michael Scott.
Andrew Scott.
That's what she said. So, and that's kind of it. And we end the movie with the bad Unisols are dead and the good Unisol is fine. And He's alive now, and the rest of them they're dead, Jim. And I guess we're just going to continue on from there. Have you guys seen any of the other movies? I know that there were some like direct-to-video versions, and there were some other sequels and TV movies. And
I have not. I am so intrigued. Like, you don't leave this movie thinking sequel.
Yeah.
So yeah, I am very intrigued by that concept.
I appreciate that you said sequel the way the Martians say station in Bill and Ted's Bogus Journey. Sequel. Sequel. Yeah, no, I haven't seen any of the other ones. Exactly. Like, it's a little bit like, do I want to equate this to Highlander? It's maybe a little bit like Highlander. It's like, do I want to see the sequels? Not really. Maybe. Wasn't there a TV show? Yeah, there's a TV show. Do I want to see the TV show? I don't know if I want to see the TV show. Why don't I just go back and watch the original movie? Okay, I'll go back and watch the original movie. But see, that's what I get into is I think, I'm going to answer my own question here too. Dolph Lundgren, I don't think he's a good villain in this movie. We needed more about him for him to be a good villain, because just now when I make the comment and comparison, like, it's kind of like Highlander. I didn't really want to go see the sequels. I think of that as like, all right, well, if I compare Dolph Lundgren's Michael Scott, Jim and Pam character to the Kurgan, I'm like, oh, that's not even, you can't even make that comparison because he's such an amazing villain in that movie. Dolph Lundgren just doesn't do it for me.
Right.
So, all right. Any other deep thoughts we have about this one? We've expended all of our deep thoughts. We've overheated on our deep thoughts.
I don't know about overheated, but...
Okay. All right. Well, we've overheated on our deep thoughts, and while we go into the 3 questions here, we're going to strip naked and get into a pool of ice, and we'll be back in just a second after the 3 questions music.
He asks each traveler 5 questions. 3 questions. 3 questions.
It's impossible to answer.
Impossible because you don't know the answer.
Nobody could answer that question.
I want to ask you a bunch of questions. I want to have them answered immediately.
What you just said is one of the most insanely idiotic things I have ever heard. At no point in your rambling, incoherent response were you even close to anything that could be considered a rational thought. Everyone in this room is now dumber for having listened to it. I award you no points, and may God have mercy
on your soul.
Yes. May God have mercy on your soul. That's the benefit of having had a cold, is I get that voice. Where I
Mr.
can,
Radio voice?
I can do the in a world. And I can do that kind of stuff, and it doesn't take any extra effort.
We've been watching, I think I texted you, John, about this. We've been watching Fact or Fiction.
Yes.
Because Donna had never seen it.
Yes.
And so the first season is actually James Brolin instead of Jonathan Frakes, which I did not know.
Oh, yeah.
But the voiceover is Don LaFontaine.
Yes, it is. Yeah.
And there are a couple episodes where he even says, and this is Don LaFontaine. And it's so funny because you just, oh boy. They spared no expense making this interesting version of television.
I would love to have heard Don LaFontaine's voicemail message.
How about it?
Yeah.
You've reached Don LaFontaine.
You've reached the LaFontaine residence.
Leave me a message.
At the sound of the tone.
Or die.
In a world
where Don LaFontaine is not home.
There you go. Yes. In a world where we're not at home right now. One person will leave a message after the tone. I love it. All right, question number 1. Little philosophical question here. If this technology actually existed and people had the option to donate their body to the military upon their death, should a program like the Universal Soldier exist?
No.
No. Why not?
It is way too easy for something like this to get out of control. I just don't think it's a good idea.
Yeah. Is it the impersonal nature of like, because I know we talked a little bit about this when we talked about Patriot games. We talked about like the whole drone thing and the impersonal nature of a drone strike versus, you know, when they're watching that whole thing on the TV screens and it's not real people, but you can kind of see the infrared of the people moving around. Is it the impersonal nature of it if it were a reanimated corpse fighting your battles for you, or is it just, no, it's creepy?
I'm kind of in the no, it's creepy category, and I just think this movie shows a great example of it's hard to do a psych evaluation on a corpse, and there's just way too much potential for it to go wrong.
Mm-hmm.
Now, maybe I'm being simplistic. There certainly is obviously I can see the reason for thinking this would be a good idea.
Yeah.
But no.
Yeah. Yeah, I could see people being like, well, it spares, like, the people that we're using they volunteered. They're already dead, so it's not like other people are dying to fight battles for us or to fight wars. But yeah, I don't know. Something about it, it seems a little too... You don't want people to die. Like, you don't want people to die in war. But at the same time, something about this seems a little too cold and impersonal, and I want to say this without sounding like a terrible human being. You almost need there to be a human cost to war. Otherwise, we'd do it all the time, I feel like. So
I could see that.
Not that you want people to die, but the fact that it is actual human lives being expended in war, I feel like maybe keeps us from escalating war, or keeps war from being worse than it could be. I don't know.
I could see that.
That was kind of my thought behind it. Was I would say no because of that, because I feel like war, as much as I don't want war to be necessary, it feels like it needs a human component to keep it in check.
I agree with everything that you guys are saying, and I think it's all those things that should be taken into consideration. My answer also would be no, and I think, one, if we're creating a true army of the undead, then we're kind of doing the playing God. We're kind of getting into Dr. Frankenstein, the reanimation of life. Mm-hmm. From dead tissue. So you're playing God. Then on the flip side, if it's like, okay, well, these people donated their bodies. Well, if they're not like all the way dead, it just kind of partially dead, then we're creating like basically living slaves to go fight our wars for us. And that's like, okay, that moves us into a different category of ethical problems. So either way, it's kind of like not good. And
well, if they're not all the way dead, there's only one thing you can do.
Right.
Go through their pockets and look for loose change.
Exactly. And then, so I guess those would be my two things. There's really it's like a binary decision, right? They're either all the way dead and you're playing God and trying to create, or they're not all the way dead and you're creating, which is kind of what you see in this movie. And you kind of have this, like, these slaves that are, you know, they're still living. They still have some semblance of their intelligence there, but when their mind there, but they're being forced to, you know, go into combat and all that. And I guess the question would be, what role would this fulfill? Like, is there a need in any sort of engagement or battlefield or whatever for this kind of a weapon system or this kind of a force? And that would be my first question, is before we decide, well, should we do it or shouldn't we do it? Like, where does the need arise? You know what I'm saying? And so I get the parallels that are to like drone strikes and all that, but I don't know. That just to me that just seems to be kind of different, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because the drones, like a drone strike or something, or we say Patriot Games, but Patriot Games still you had real human. That thing that you were watching through the satellite, it wasn't like those were robots, right? Those were like real human beings. It was just that the analysts were watching
it was just
from another.
They were detached from it.
Yeah, it was just that they were detached from it. But I don't know. This is different, and so that's I guess what I would say is okay. Where is the need for this?
Yeah.
For this kind of a soldier, other than in like a fantasy movie, for us to watch at a sleepover when it's 11:30 at night, and we've already watched Army of Darkness and played a couple of rounds of Street Fighter 2 Turbo.
Right.
Like there you have a need for it, but in reality, where do you have a need for this? And then it gets into the two questions, depending on what they are. So I would say no, because I just wouldn't see the need. And I think both of those two questions are pretty chilling when you follow them down.
Yeah. Yeah. All right, question number 2. Who would win in a fight, RoboCop, the Terminator, or a Unisol?
Which Terminator?
I'm going to go the Arnold Schwarzenegger T-800.
Okay.
Yeah, because honestly, if it was any other of the Terminators, like it wouldn't even be.
If it was a
question.
T-1000, then yeah, that's...
Yeah. Whew.
I'll jump in. I'll say Terminator.
Okay.
That was my gut reaction and my after I thought about it for 3 weeks reaction.
Okay.
I am trying to decide between the Terminator and RoboCop.
Let's be honest. I'm sorry, Bo. I interrupted.
No,
you.
Go ahead.
I was just going to say, let's be completely honest here. Is this the first time you considered this question, or have we been considering this question since we were 12 years old and we saw these movies for the first time?
Yes.
Right. Okay. I'm just making sure we're all on the same page with that.
Oh yeah. This is
classic.
Like,
this is like way before anybody did a comic book of Alien versus Predator. We were trying to decide Alien versus Predator who would win. And yes. I will say I've cheated a bit, and I have read the RoboCop versus Terminator comic book.
Yes, you have.
Which is very, very good. I love that comic book. So yes, I'm going to reserve my answer to the end, but unfortunately for the Unisol, I don't think the Unisol even factors into it.
I would agree with that statement. I don't think that's a thing.
But, Bo, I interrupted you, man. Were you going to finish your thought, or?
Oh, probably eventually when I get around to it. I'm thinking... I think I have to go Terminator. I want RoboCop to do it, but I don't think that's a thing.
My answer is RoboCop, but it's kind of based off of the RoboCop versus Terminator comic.
Right.
And I think that the RoboCop in the comic book was a little stronger and a little more agile than the RoboCop that we see in the movie. I believe he was a RoboCop that had also been around for a little while, so it was not like the brand new RoboCop getting his Detroit sea legs underneath him. So in my mind, RoboCop beats out the Terminator, but that's based on the comic book and the old Sega Genesis video game.
Gotcha. Forgot about that.
Yeah. Because that was some good stuff too.
Oh yeah.
All right, and for this last question 3, I'm shying away from body part jewelry, but if you could own any famous piece of jewelry, real or fictional, what would it be? And I will admit I struggled with this one for a while.
So I have an odd fascination with signet rings.
Okay.
So I did a little dive into those. I really like the ones from Dune, both 1984 and more recent. The Atreides signet ring is quite cool. And then there's a cool one in Kingsman also.
Okay.
I'm sorry, Kingsman, the newest one. The whole there's something classic to that wax or clay seal, and put your ring in there as your signature, and maybe it's a little passive aggressive of me because my handwriting is terrible. So being able to sign something with with a stamp sounds like a beautiful idea to me. That's what I got.
Good choice.
Patrick, what do you got?
So is it too much of a stretch to say, like, for jewelry, and I'm going to go later Avengers movie spoilers. So anybody that is not caught up with MCU, okay, you've been forewarned. Is it too much of a stretch to say the little energy thing that Tony Stark has that he hangs on his clothes, like by Endgame and Infinity War, that contains his suit? But it's like, it's not like his little generator, because remember, he got the surgical procedure and that was removed.
Right.
So he just kind of hangs that piece there, almost like a piece of jewelry. Does that count, or am I stretching the rule too much?
No, I think that's fine.
I'm going with that, man.
Okay.
Because that'd be awesome. Just have an Iron Man suit, that'd be wicked awesome.
Okay. All right. I think my daughter chose the Time Turner for this one.
Oh, good choice.
I think that was hers when I asked her about it. I struggled with this one a bit because part of me is like, well, Green Lantern ring.
Yeah.
Then you can like do whatever you want with it. The other one that I always wanted to try to find a replica of this that was not unreasonably priced. The ring that I always thought looked kind of cool from the comic books was the Legion of Superheroes had the Legion flight ring. And back in the comic books, I think it was when Superboy first, like way back in the old comic books, Superboy went to the future and he would hang out with the Legion of Superheroes, and he couldn't fly yet. So they gave him one of their Legion rings, and that gave him the ability to fly while he was having adventures with them in the future. And I always thought that ring looked kind of cool. So I kind of went back and forth on a couple of different famous pieces of jewelry there. I'm going to go with the one that fascinated me as a kid, and I think just to have a replica of this, if it was the real thing, then yes, that would be totally awesome. I'm going to go with the Orin pendant from Neverending Story.
Oh, good one.
That one that is like the snakes that are like eating each other's tails and they're intertwined with each other. And
very cool.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with that one. The one that's on the cover of the book, but it's also the pendant that Atreyu wears.
Yeah,
awesome choice.
I always thought that was cool as a kid, so I would go with that one.
That's awesome.
And Pat, the bullies do get eaten at the end.
Yeah, they do. Yeah, they do.
Yeah, Luck Dragons.
That's right, man.
Eat the bullies.
Luck of Dragon's hungry, man. Feed me.
All right. I think that's going to do it for Universal Soldier. Do we think that we've universally answered all the questions that need to be answered?
I think so.
Okay.
Fun movie. Just
it is
go
a fun
watch
movie.
it. Don't think too hard. Just enjoy the ride.
It's the strangest entry in the Universal Monsters movies.
I'm just curious.
It was really weird when Abbott and Costello met Jean-Claude Van Damme.
I just have to say, when they hid in the room with that other couple down in the covers, that was just humorous on levels like heretofore not really even thought of. When they popped out of the cover, I'm just like, yeah, that's just weird. That's just awkward.
Yeah.
That was awesome.
It reminded me of Tombstone.
Yeah.
Nobody move.
No.
By all means, move.
Move. Yes.
Yeah.
Fun movie.
All right. Well, we are the 30-something movie podcast, which you can find at 30podcast.com. All of our past episodes are there, so go check them out. There's also a spot there where you can join us as a co-executive producer via Patreon, if you feel so inclined to do that as well. There's bonus episodes on there if you want to do that, as well as some other. Let's see what else we got coming up here for the rest of the next couple of months. We've got the month of May is going to be our kind of musicals and animation month. We've got Newsies, Noises Off, Aladdin, and Cool World. And then we've got Singing in the Rain will be our Patreon episode then. June, we've got the Man Show, so every single one of our movies ends with, or doesn't end with, but has the word man in it somewhere. We've got The Distinguished Gentleman, Encino Man, Memoirs of an Invisible Man, Lawnmower Man, and Candyman. And then if you are looking way ahead and you want to even get into July, July is our Salute to Animals, where the movies have something to do with animals or have animals in the title. That will be Batman Returns, Reservoir Dogs, The Mighty Ducks, Beethoven, and our Patreon that month will be the Razzies of 1990. And I believe those are Shining Through, The Bodyguard, Christopher Columbus, The Discovery, Final Analysis, and Newsies. So we have got a lot of good stuff coming up over the next couple of months or so. So if you want to get ahead, watch some of those movies to kind of keep up with us, feel free to go check those out, and we will be happy to have you along for the ride with us. And then you can leave us a voicemail, too, if you want to. Head over to our website. There's a little spot to leave a voicemail there if you want to have your voicemail read out and responded to on the show. Otherwise, thank you, Pat. Thank you, Bo, for being here as usual.
Thank you, John.
Thank you, John. Thank you, Bo.
All right, everybody, be excellent to each other. Go watch some good movies, and we will see you back here next time.